Today we're sharing why you shouldn't travel full-time after you've retired.
We retired early over a year ago and have been traveling ever since with no permanent home anywhere in the world.
We're going to take you through all the downsides of nomadic life, but stick around until the end to find out what makes full-time travel worth it.
If you've been following our channel, it is so great to have you back again this week. We're nearing the end of our time here in Split, Croatia, so remember to join us next week for the full scoop on all of our experience and costs. If you're new to our channel, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Stephanie. We're a couple who retired early, we sold everything we own, and now we travel the world full time. So if you're looking for how-tos for early retirement and slow travel, we have a new video every week.
We spend a lot of time on this channel talking about how much we love full-time travel. And we do. It is amazing to arrive in a new city that we've never been to before and discover everything that it has to offer. And then a month later, we hop on over to the next destination for a whole new adventure.
This is all part of why life in early retirement is so great, which we talked about in this video. And we'll put a link to that video in the description along with all the others that we talk about today.
But this lifestyle isn't always perfect or even all that easy. Even though we love exploring new cultures and landscapes and trying new foods, there's a lot going on in the background.
We're constantly planning logistics to get in and out of countries. We have to find an Airbnb that we can be happy in for a whole month. And then when that month is up, all of our worldly possessions need to be crammed into 2 suitcases. So today we're going to share those challenges and more, all of those downsides that come from traveling full time.
Before we get into it, we wanted to remind you of the holiday giveaway that we're doing. This is a way for us to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel in the past year.
We went from just 80 subscribers in January of this year to the community that we have today. So this really encourages us to keep sharing our experiences with you every week.
If you'd like a chance to win, all you need to do is subscribe to our newsletter. The link and all the details are in the description below.
The first big downside of full-time travel, we are constantly planning. Every time we move to a new location, and we basically move every month, there's a whole new set of research to do.
First, we need to decide where we're headed. Which country makes the most sense given the experiences that we value and the weather at that time of year. And now, COVID rates and travel bans. When we first headed out on this adventure, we had a specific list of all the countries that we wanted to visit and in what order. But of course, no one's 2020 went according to plan.
The next planning challenge is our transportation. Sometimes it's a bit easier if we're just moving from one city to another in the same country. So here in Croatia, when we moved from Dubrovnik to Split, it was a pretty straightforward 4-hour drive in a rental car.
But if we're headed to a whole new country, that's when we need to get serious about planning. That means hours of research, looking at different flight combinations, and finding the most efficient way to get from A to B.
At the same time, we're trolling through Airbnb listings, trying to find apartments that meet our needs and are at the right price. That comes with its own set of challenges, which we'll get to in a moment.
Given all the uncertainty with travel bans and lockdowns, we're only booking 1 or 2 months in advance. So for a few days every month, we need to flip into research mode and come up with our next set of plans. And that can sometimes get in the way of enjoying where we are now.
The next downside of traveling full-time after early retirement, living out of a suitcase. So we each have 1 large suitcase, 1 backpack, and that's it. Everything we have for life on the road has to fit in or it gets left behind.
This means that we can't accumulate anything. There's no room for souvenirs or mementos or anything that doesn't have an immediate practical use.
It also means that we're stuck with extremely practical wardrobes. So there's no room for nicer things that we only wear occasionally. In fact, I've been carrying around my favorite pair of dress shoes for the past year that I haven't worn once. And I know that sooner or later, I'm gonna have to make a decision about them because we just don't have the room.
Now let's talk about living full-time in Airbnbs. We'll admit it, we are not 20-something-year-old backpackers who are happy to crash in a hostel for months on end. Until very recently, we were working professionals with a comfortable life in a very nice condo.
So when we choose an Airbnb for a month-long stay, we want something equally nice, especially because we don't have another permanent home to go to when our travels are over. Anywhere we stay is our home, and we are willing to put more of our budget towards it, like we talked about in this video, about the surprises that we faced in our first year of early retirement.
The challenge is that no matter how nice an apartment looks in the photos, each place always comes with its own quirks. There's always that moment of truth when we walk into a new apartment and discover what's waiting for us.
For example, in our gorgeous apartment in Athens, the shower was so small that I could barely turn around, and I'm a pretty small person.
And our lovely traditional apartment in Florence, it was the bed that was small. Instead of a full-sized queen or double bed suitable for 2 people, we had 2 single-and-a-half beds, a size that I had no idea actually existed.
And there was even one time when we arrived at an Airbnb in Turkey and almost immediately burst into tears at the thought of living there for a month. It was freezing cold, it was very damp, and totally run down. So we got in touch with Airbnb right away, and fortunately they helped us out with an immediate cancellation and a refund.
Of course, as we've said, in spite of all these downsides, we still find full-time travel worth the hassles, and we'll tell you why at the end of the video. In the meantime, we're sharing all the challenges related to not sleeping in your own bed, not cooking in your own kitchen, and trying to buy groceries in a foreign language.
Let's tackle not sleeping in your own bed first. So whenever we used to go on vacation, we were always very happy to come back home at the end of it for a good night's sleep in our own bed.
Well, we don't have that option anymore. Every month, we have a different bedroom, a different mattress, and a different set of pillows, not to mention any new sounds outside and any light that might be coming into the room. All of this can really affect your quality of sleep.
For example, in Toronto, we stayed in a stylish apartment with a nice bedroom that only had one drawback. It had no air conditioning, and we just happened to be going through one of those record-breaking heat waves at the time.
In Fethiye, Turkey, it was the opposite. We had no source of heating in our bedroom, and some nights in January were so cold that we ended up wearing our sweaters in bed.
We also have the challenge of cooking in a new kitchen every month. No matter how well equipped the listing claims to be, almost every Airbnb is missing something when it comes to the kitchen.
That Airbnb we mentioned in Toronto also came with just one tiny frying pan that was only large enough to cook a single egg. The apartment also only had 3 forks, so we ended up having to buy a few more at the local dollar store.
We stayed at an Airbnb in Ukraine that actually had a full oven, but it wasn't wired up to function. Only the burners worked. Even more importantly, that same Airbnb lacked any way to make coffee, which in our book is a huge gap.
Fortunately, we carry a travel-sized coffee filter with us, so it wasn't the end of the world.
Next up, shopping for groceries in new countries. First, we have the challenge of figuring out which stores have the range of groceries that we're looking for. We often have to visit a few before we find the right fit. Once we're in the store, we need to somehow make heads or tails of all the products.
Often we're standing in the aisles, scanning labels with Google Translate, trying to decipher the packaging, and still making mistakes. One time we tried to buy yeast so we could make bread, but we ended up with baking powder.
Another time we thought we bought butter, but it actually turned out to be yeast. Obviously, buying groceries in new countries takes a lot more time and a lot more effort than just popping down to the local supermarket at home.
We talk more about this in a recent video about how traveling full-time saves us money, except when it comes to buying groceries.
On a related note, we often struggle with the different approaches to plastic packaging and recycling programs in each country. As we've traveled, we've seen a lot of variation in the local practices.
In Italy, for example, we were really impressed with the biodegradable produce bags that everyone used and the green waste composting program. In most other places, we've come across food packaged in a ton of plastic and often a complete lack of formal recycling program.
We find this challenging because we want to be good global citizens, but we often find that we just lack options to do the right thing for the environment.
Those are a lot of downsides, but we still find full-time travel to be totally worth it. In spite of any challenges, we love the excitement and adventure of being in a new location every month and getting exposed to new cultures.
Our past year of full-time travel has really helped us learn so much about the world, but also so much about ourselves. So the longer we travel, the more we grow, even if we have to sleep in an uncomfortable bed every so often.
So how about you? What's your travel style? Do you prefer short trips of just a couple weeks, or do you think you'd like the slow travel lifestyle the way that we do it? Share with everyone in the comments below.
And if you found this video helpful, we recommend you watch the next one right here. It's all about how traveling full-time actually saves us money.
You can hit that like button to let us know if you enjoyed this content, and don't forget to subscribe for a new video every week. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll see you back next time.